Third time's a charm. So that was our third attempt at starting this podcast. All my fault, I have to kind of confess. So this is the Kids Media Club podcast, and I'm Andy Williams.
You remembered who you were. Well done, Andy.
I know, just about.
I'm Joe Redfern, and we're going to soda pop over to Emily Horgan.
Yes, and I'm very excited because K-pop Demon Hunters has just become the most watched Netflix original streaming movie, or most watched movie on Netflix ever of all time. This news just came in this week. K-pop Demon Hunters has surpassed Red Notice as the biggest Netflix film ever on a 91-day cadence. I've written about K-pop a good bit in my newsletter, the Kids Streamer Sphere, over the past few weeks.
Can we? Sorry to interrupt. Can we talk some numbers? Because I know we lack a bit of data here. So, did I read over 2 billion minutes viewed?
It's over 1 billion minutes viewed on Nielsen. There's a couple of different ways to slice and dice the numbers, but so it's over. It had its first billion minutes viewed week on Nielsen last week. It's surpassed 36 million views, which is the Netflix metric where they divide the hours viewed by the runtime of the movie. So it's surpassed Red Notice. It's been on a journey. It's been one of the most interesting performance curves we've ever seen. The entertainment strategy guy, who was a former guest on this show, who is king of the numbers, unpacked this in his newsletter this week as well, that we've never seen a show on we've never seen a title on streaming behave quite this way. K-pop Demon Hunters came in low. It came in low on global Netflix numbers. It came in low on Nielsen numbers, and then it jumped. And now there's been no decay, right? Like it's been either
still
consistent
growing, right?
or modestly growing at a high level. Keeping its engagement level at pretty standard or modestly increasing. So that's something that we've never really seen on streaming for streaming performance. The closest thing we've seen to K-pop Demon Hunters on streaming is Encanto. Encanto launched in 2021. It kind of had a COVID release, cinema release. It was kind of like, it wasn't a full-hearted cinema release. It was a COVID cinema release. I'm sure you all remember those painful days. But then when it hit Disney Plus streaming around Christmas and the holidays, it just went for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, Encanto had a bigger pop on streaming. It was an established Disney title. It had seen a cinema release. There was proper marketing around it.
And a huge marketing campaign around it.
My guess for K-pop Demon Hunters is the marketing of this was minimal to non-existent, because that first week when the film launched, it was
pretty quiet, wasn't it?
Very, very little. Yeah, it did bad. Like it did badly by any standards. And usually, what you'd expect of a Netflix movie is it goes off into the dark to fester and die, but not K-pop Demon Hunters. I think because of the music, because of the movie. The movie is so good. Oh, guys, this is what I got into kids media for, right? Like when shows come out and like IP comes out that I just find myself being such an honest fan of.
Oh, same. I've watched it twice.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. And it's just unreal. I don't know if you've spoken to any young people about this. There's been summer holidays, just wrapping up now. And I've been at like community events, like the cricket club, being like group of 9-year-old on my street corners being like, have you guys seen it? And they're like, literally the answer from 2 separate groups was like, yeah, who hasn't seen it?
Yeah. Like amazing. 5 times. And what I love, obviously they went into theatres over last weekend with the sing-along versions, but there's also the lyric videos all over YouTube. So I imagine that there's literally kids the world over singing it in their bedrooms, reading the lyrics off YouTube. I mean, it is verifiably taken on a life of its own now. How long do you think it'll keep growing, Emily? Because I don't know if it's going to plateau anytime soon.
It's kind of at a plateaued level, a high plateaued level. I feel like we've hit its weekly ceiling, but how long that can go sustain for, I think, is an interesting question. Could the schools going back to school period impact the amount of viewing? I definitely think it helped over the summer that everybody could sit down and watch this and watch it on repeat. But equally, the sing-along version is hitting Netflix streaming as well, and I think that would be another lease of life for it too.
When
It's
is it
another
hitting Netflix streaming?
this week.
So
Yeah.
in time for back to school, because
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
underestimate the power of FOMO and gossip going back to school. I
Yeah.
think that might even give it a bit more of a boost.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I wonder if that kind of FOMO and the fact became sort of a currency with that age group, whether that in some ways benefited, it really helped it, because maybe that obscurity that it launched in relative obscurity, so it meant that you could go to your friends and say, I've discovered this thing, and you could feel like you owned that discovery a bit more than it being a top-down big marketing thing where this feels like a movie that was discovered by an audience and then promoted by that audience.
Yeah,
Even the move to film kind of feels like that's driven almost by the audience appetite for the movie rather than Netflix deciding that's part of their media strategy.
I mean, how many times have we discussed that on this podcast over the years? Don't tell young people what they're going to like. Let them make the decision. And even if that means you are still marketing it, but you're marketing it in a very specific way, do you think that this felt like something that they could go, oh, hey, I've not seen this all over bus sides, and I've not seen this predominantly marketed in too corporate or Hollywood a way. Okay, I'm in.
This is mine.
It's mine, made for me. Yeah.
And we've talked Sorry, Emily, go for it.
There's been a lot of discussion about whether it should have gone to movies first, should have gone to the cinemas first.
Yeah, that was going to be my
big. Yeah, if it had gone to the cinemas first, I would strongly believe that streaming made this movie because of numerous different things, because of the summer, because of the music.
100%.
This is the High School Musical effect, right? Like, this is the High School Musical effect. I think the cinema window this weekend was obviously a great boon for Netflix. It was that people are saying around $20 million happy out, which probably covers around a fifth of the production budget of the movie. So that's all after it's been this massive phenomenon on streaming. So whereas a lot of people are still like, well, if it had gone to cinemas, it would have been. I don't think many parents would have brought kids to
without doubt. I think I think we've talked on the podcast before about whether movies should get a cinema release or whether they should go straight to streaming. And I think quite a lot of the traditional movies would do better by being at the cinema first and then moving to streaming. But I think for K-pop Demon Hunters, it was quite an obscure movie that nobody had heard of. You needed the reach of Netflix to be able to build that cult following. There's no way that you'd have been able to do that at the cinema. I think it would have died at the cinema. And actually,
I think that would have sullied it for streaming then.
Yeah,
without a doubt, it would have had the taint of failure, and that would be hard to escape from. Maybe the success of K-pop Demon Hunters actually shows that there is a place for cinema as part of your media strategy, but it comes after.
Doesn't have to lead.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's always been the Netflix position, right? Ted Sarandos has been very clear that he didn't want to feel the pressure of putting stuff in cinemas first. Now, whether this means that they've softened their position on it going at any point into theatres, I would be tempted to reserve the right to do it again if I was him. But I think to summarily assume now that Netflix is going to go into theatres with big movie releases would be wrong.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the thing about it is, right, I think there's a texture that comes with a Netflix original movie, right? And actually, what we've said about K-pop, it's similar in that texture. It feels like it's big, right? I'm not saying it's a TV movie, but a TV movie doesn't have to be that TV movie sticker. But a lot of the original Netflix movies have that. They have a streaming movie quality, not necessarily a cinema movie quality. Think of all the stuff with Sophia Carson, right? That's been humongous on Netflix. Carry On. There's loads of movies that she's done, and they don't really feel like that. I wouldn't say that they should have gone. Any of those should have gone to cinema, honestly. K-pop being another example of that texture, right? It's like a new texture of movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
Now, should the sequels go to cinema? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that often feature films on Netflix, for me, feel a bit like a feature-length episode of a TV series.
Yeah.
They have that aspect to it. So yeah, they feel very much like they've been created for that living room experience rather than the cinema experience. In a way, it feels like the move to cinema for K-pop is it's a reward to the fans, and it's an opportunity for them to all congregate in a
Yeah.
community and enjoy this film that they all loved and they're seeing for the first time on a big screen, but certainly not for the first time on a screen. I wonder whether it almost has the spirit of I don't know, like a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of element to it. It's coming together to really experience that movie in a group, really.
Yeah, like Gentle Minions was for groups of teenage boys in their suits. You know, it's a moment.
Yeah,
It's that cultural cachet, isn't it? You want to go
yeah,
with your friends, you want to sing along.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Again, then the question then for Netflix is what next? I mean, it feels like, and again, I wrote this up in the newsletter a few weeks ago, like cinema, great tick. I think that was an important part of the mix, and they've rolled that out earlier than I would have expected them to. All of the supplementary assets, lyric videos, all that kind of stuff, get creative services on it in terms of outputting something to make the film feel fresh.
Yep.
But then the question is, how do you continue to keep this big whilst the second movie's in development? The second movie's going to be minimum 2 years away. And it's also this question of like Netflix's Frozen moment, which has been characterized as. But like the thing about the Frozen moment, I can say from personal experience is Frozen was huge for Disney, but they were caught with their franchise pants down. You know what I mean? And that's a bit of a similar situation with K-pop, right? Like, yes, it has the potential to be a massive franchise for Netflix, but you need to galvanize in that way.
Yeah.
And that's not something that they have a machine to do. That's not something
that was going to be my question. It doesn't feel like they have that machine internally, where even at somewhere like BBC Studios or Disney or DreamWorks, you have that machine. Now, it might not work as quickly as you would like, given that they're more legacy franchise managers. But do Netflix even have that resource in house?
Yes. And listen, that is one thing they have going for them. I think the move to cinemas was very quicker than I would have expected, thanks to my, PTSD from stakeholder management at Disney. The fact that they trotted that out within a month or 6 weeks within around a month of the thing becoming absolutely huge. So maybe they can move quickly to get the systems in place. Whereas, I can tell you at Disney, it was a question of, okay, everyone is doing Princess. You're now half your time now needs to be doing Frozen. Okay, right? So just, but there were teams there and there was resource there. There was experience there and expertise. So,
one of the good, interesting things will be to see at BLE in just over a month's time.
Yes.
What kind of licensing strategy or footprint or deals will be announced there?
Do you know what I'm so basic, but I'm like, I wonder if they even managed to get like the marketing assets in for that, because you have to submit your marketing assets to these types of conferences like months in advance, and they need this to be big. But it's listen, great opportunity, delighted for them. The only thing I would say, I would also caution, I was chatting about somebody about this recently as well, was what do we learn, right? Like I don't think there's much, like, I think this is lightning in a bottle. I think this is, lightning strikes in two ways. I was thinking about this in my walk. Lightning strikes out of nowhere, and that's what this is. And then other times lightning strikes because the atmosphere has been grinding for about 2 days and people, you know what I mean? And that's you kind of think the franchise is hit in both ways. Sometimes they hit out of nowhere, and I think this is definitely one that's hit out of nowhere. And the other way is they hit because people intentionally put together the machine. And yes, there is lightning and there's a spark and there's a great IP at the center of it, but there's a machine that's grinding around it. I think this is definitely the former, not the latter. It's out of nowhere. And I really hope the takeaway isn't we're all going to do Korean-based musical animated films.
Yeah.
I saw Simon Coleman was pitching. Did you see this with J-Rock Monster Hunters?
You know it's coming. I'm sorry. I'm getting that spidey sense that
That's
there's
not
going to
the
be
lesson.
a deluge.
I know that will be the lesson, though.
No,
Unfortunately.
Andy.
Do you think how do you think the relationship with Sony and Netflix is going to work? Because there's been a lot of discussion on the fact that Sony's deal wasn't, with hindsight, wasn't the best deal they could have struck on this movie. But do you think that Netflix are going to need Sony to really be able to build this franchise in the way
Yeah,
that they want to?
I think that's an opportunity because Sony is a corporation that has this machine
Yeah,
that can deploy. Obviously, they need to have skin in the game to want to deploy it, and they
absolutely.
don't because obviously you said that deal was done with the $20 million paycheck for Sony, and that was it. And I think
Yeah,
at the time, like looking, people have said in hindsight, yeah, it was a bad deal. But like, hang on a second, like in 2021, for Sony to have a guaranteed placement for animated movies that they were outputting was a sensible deal,
Yeah.
utterly
Totally.
sensible deal.
totally.
And I read somewhere that, in fact, it was this morning, someone had said, Sony, to look at it in isolation, you can say that it might have been a bad deal for Sony, but they're a portfolio IP company. You know what? They're going to be fine. I don't suppose
Oh yeah,
that
absolutely.
they're
And I
crying
wonder
over.
whether for Netflix there might be an opportunity to say, look, we're partners in this. We kind of need you to help turn this into the franchise we want to make it, and they, maybe look at opportunities to give them more participation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like that is one lever that they can pull if they don't want to go alone, and they're looking for people with expertise and track
Yeah.
record. I would say for sure. Yeah, I think in the moment it was. They're a portfolio company, like you say, Joe, and in the moment, keeping that portfolio alive meant trying to do long-term deals because otherwise people would just not be working. So yeah, but what a great IP! I think the second one has been announced officially today. I think this morning,
Great.
and yeah, I still have the soundtrack on repeat.
Yes.
Oh, playing
Fabulous.
Golden. Golden was, is the one that I keep going back
What
to.
it sounds like is better than Golden.
Sorry?
What it sounds like is
Come
better
on,
than
let's have the
Golden.
debate.
Well, no, I channeled my 15-year-old girl, and I had the lyric video on the other day and was doing my own little hairbrush moment. A lot of fun. And I really loved the Honest trailer too that you shared.
Yeah. Oh my
Really
god.
chuckle
Yeah, that was
out
great.
loud
This is
take
the
from the
reason why I
Honest
got into
trailers crew.
TV is so that I can like indulge my fandom around things like the Honest Trader was hysterical. I got on the side of TikTok that was looking at all of the different translations. And so
Right.
the French translation on point. Apparently the Dutch translation is a slaughtering.
Right.
I got onto that. So then I got onto the side of TikTok that was just like all these grown-ups talking about their fandom for K-pop Demon Hunters and how weird they were getting. And I was like, yeah, TikTok knows me well.
That's amazing.
Cool. Okay, what's next? What do we got?
What's next for discussion?
I didn't even make notes. And this is how bad my memory is because we spoke about it just
It
before.
started well. It was 3 attempts for me to actually start the podcast.
We were going to talk about YouTube monetization, advertising-based monetization, and YouTube-based engagement.
Oh, yes.
Because you had a post about this today, Andy, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I posted. Basically, I was interested to see what are the actual restrictions that YouTube, the COPPA rules around YouTube.
Presumably you
Place.
found those. Where did you find those?
I asked AI.
Okay.
So
It's okay.
you know.
You're allowed.
Yeah. So have the asterisk, kind of basically. So it's from AI, and I'm just waffling a bit as I try to call up the post. So
Yeah, there's a number of things with COPPA that
here we go.
creators can't do when it comes to audience engagement.
There is. Shall I kind of? I'll kind of read through the restrictions that came up. So comments are completely turned off. preventing viewers from leaving feedback or engaging in discussions directly under videos. Live chats are disabled. Notifications are turned off, so subscribers don't receive alerts or for new uploads or other updates, reducing ongoing engagement. Community posts are unavailable, so you can't share polls, images, or text updates. And end screens, info cards are also restricted or disabled. And then the final one is personalized ads and data collection. COPPA prohibits gathering personal information from children for targeting, advertising, or customization, which indirectly limits tailored audience experiences. Now, I think there's lots of those areas where I think people can see the justification for those. But my question was there any areas that people thought there was opportunities to tweak or amend or look for some kind of variations in some of those restrictions?
I think it feels like, gosh, there's so much to unpack here. It feels like there's much more nuance to those restrictions that you've just read out. Each one feels like there could be a tweak or a technological solution that isn't quite as blunt as to disable this, you can't do that, squash this. Because as we know, it's a massive disincentive to anyone who wants to create content for kids and for whom YouTube is their only really viable channel to distribute it. And we've said it before, who'd get into the kids' media business now? If they looked at it on paper, who would do it? But then that's so sad because these disincentives are so strong. So whilst nobody's saying that COPPA compliance or these safeguarding rules are not needed, and nobody's saying that kids shouldn't be protected online, there, for me, it feels like there has to be some pragmatic discussion of how this basically, in an ad-funded world, how this basically means that making kids content is not commercially viable.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I wonder as well whether are the same restrictions required to safeguard a 4-year-old on YouTube as do you need to safeguard a 10-year-old on YouTube? I wonder if I was 10, would I feel a bit shut out of the conversation online if the content created for me I wasn't allowed to comment on or interact with, whereas in 2 or 3 years' time, a 13-year-old would be able to do that. And I know that there are all kinds of things that have hard age limits where you kind of hit a line and then suddenly you can do stuff that you couldn't do before. But I wonder whether having the same blanket regulations across the entire age group up to 13, whether that is nuanced and appropriate.
I think the thing is, for any corporation like YouTube or any of the social platforms getting into this, it's like, it's just too much of a minefield, right? And that's why they just slap the blanket on and forget it, right? And the ultimate outcome of that is that we end up in this situation where monetizing social video for kids is basically impossible. I do think that it's something that's worth considering is like, talk about preschool kids versus school-going kids. I do think there's this point of kids. I need to come with a fancier term for it, but once kids have the capability of being in charge of their own digital destinies, generally means when they can read and write pretty decently, because they need to be able to search things and they need to be able to read things to know what they're getting themselves into. Like, that is an inflection point in their whole experience of the internet. And they want to explore and they're curious about it. I will say that, having been at the front line of some of this, like comments with kids is a difficult place to be, because kids, I can imagine. Obviously there's things that we all know, you will imagine, like bullying can happen, nastiness can happen. And the safeguarding thing goes even beyond what you can imagine, right? So it's things like, you might have kids emailing you twice a day, telling you about how their day is going, because you're the only person that they email every day, or that's the only message that sends. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might have
Right.
kids emailing you saying that something bad is happening to them, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, like, it's not just, I don't say just, but like the obvious thing that you go to is that there'll be comments and there'll be nasty comments, but it really goes deeper, much deeper in the safeguarding issue than that. I would say from experience.
Yeah, same.
And,
Yeah, we used to do a lot of training on that at the Beeb as well.
yeah, and like for a garden variety creator, like that's a lot of responsibility, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be getting that wrong. The advertising thing is so tricky. Obviously, nobody's saying that people companies should be tracking contextualized data on kids. Like, that's wrong. You need consent for that. You need to opt in. But the fact that it's completely neutering advertising for kids on YouTube and beyond, I would say, the revenue levels of it is having a direct impact on the production of good quality kids content.
Yeah, and that's the dilemma, isn't it? That because the advertising question isn't just around YouTube. That had a massive impact on commercial TV stations when the regulation came in to restrict advertising of food groups with or drinks with high sugar or high salt or high fat, that had an impact on the amount of advertising revenue that those commercial channels made. And you have an audience that everyone is very protective of, rightly, because it's a young audience. But you also have that tension between, if you want to have commercial children's TV stations or commercially viable content on YouTube, you need to find some way in which it can be advertiser funded, or, and this is a completely valid position, you're happy with a much smaller kids industry that's more public service and isn't advertiser funded. So I think there's a tension there, and I don't really know what the answer is to it.
It feels like, just looking at that list that you read out before, and there's some that I think, disabling live chats, got it, okay. But things like end screens and info cards, I look at that, and particularly if you're trying to manage an IP, and you've got other places where your IP exists, or, again, there are sophisticated tools. There's also guidelines that platform can give you that say, don't put this on an end card, but actually this kind of information is okay. Again, it doesn't feel like just blanket saying you can't have info cards and you can't have end screens is neutering, to use your term, Emily, any kind of information sharing on where else you might be able to enjoy this IP. So it feels like there are certain parts of those regulations that you outlined that are that sledgehammer to crack a nut. And there's part of me that refuses to believe that the technology doesn't exist to allow a slightly more nuanced application of those rules to try and help stop this. I mean, it will end up being a barbell, won't it? You'll either have those super well-funded that can afford to take the hit that will make the content, or you will have the absolute dross that are AI cat videos that get dark very quickly, that are circumventing a lot of these because they're not made for kids, but still feature an AI cute cat, so therefore the algorithm serves it to them. So that I think it warrants some serious discussion about whether those rules are fit for purpose.
And it's also that point, like, once you get to a certain level, as I said, once you're in control of your own digital destiny, that you just go, all right, I'm just going to like put my age, my year, date of birth is this, or I'm going to go over to this platform that's unregulated, or I'm going to, because I want to be able to chat to my mates.
Absolutely. I mean, we've talked about the fact that Mr. Beast audience there must be a high percentage of children within Mr. Beast's audience, even though
he wouldn't be doing Deal with Loose Toys if it wasn't, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Although he won't be ticking the box marked "made for kids" on his YouTube content.
Well, I think I am watching
on a separate channel. I think.
Yeah, it's a separate channel, and I'm watching with breath that is bated as to what that situation is going to be. But ultimately, Mr. Beast is in that position where this is a flywheel of the machine, right? Like he can drive an audience there. He's not dependent on building this kids channel from scratch. If it ends up being a kids channel, he's not dependent on building it up from scratch. He has engines that can drive audiences there, and just like, any other big corporate media company would have, if they were launching something, just like Netflix have with K-pop Demon Hunters, that they've seen it's big. It's like, okay, well, y'all get over there.
Absolutely. But it strikes me that this channel that he has the partnership from, the primary driver for that will be to sell toys and merch. And it used to be that when you worked in kids TV, you couldn't do a show based on a toy, that you had to it didn't make complete sense, but you had to have the TV show, and then the TV show could inspire a toy range, but it couldn't be inspired
the other way around. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Now we're in a world in which toys are sort of the only viable way for new kids content to really make money.
I do think that like the trailer for Mr. Beast's show looks like it's got legit, right? Like it's a proper animated series that's, the trailer, I liked it, was coded, it was very internet coded in terms of its vernacular, that kind of thing. Like it looked genuine. As opposed to it being like a straight toy play, and we've all seen those.
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I do think it, at least at the trailer level, it had heart. So yeah, but I mean, we've lived in that era of it needing the toy needing to be very front and center for a while, or at least there has been a cohort of companies targeting that for a long time. It's just how you manage to build anything organically from the ground up in a kid's sense without having a major corporate behind you, is the future of kids media just going to be verticals from established adjacent influencers like Mr. Beast or that kind of thing? I don't know. It's building anything up organically from scratch feels very out of reach right now.
Yeah.
If anybody is listening who's doing that and seeing success, like, let me know, because I'd be fascinated to look in on it.
I also wonder whether the challenges of monetizing kids content has meant that brands that are recognized as more kids brands have ended up looking to extend into more adult ranges, because they feel like that's an area where it's an easy monetization route, whether it's Lego. Disney have stuff that they're kind of targeting to older fans.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that's in some ways a response to the kids area being more challenging.
I think it is, and we heard it from the Claynosaurs guys too.
Yeah.
How they've extended their IP relatively early in its life cycle to include monetization that you can only do if you're for aimed at adults, tokenized content versus content that would be served to kids. And he was talking about how they're quite happy for their brand and their IP to exist in these two different sectors.
Yeah. I also think there's that point as well of like, particularly when we're talking about non-preschool content, but like more like content for 7+ stuff like that. It's going straight for family, not making it kiddie, right? Like Wednesday season 2 just launched. The numbers aren't as good as season 1, but whatever, But Wednesday is a show that, and by the way, season 2, to my mind, is skewing younger again than season 1. I mean, they literally go to a camp and do a color war, right? Like it's kind of Camp Rock 101. So I think there's that question of, but don't target kids. Okay, so don't target kids. Number one, because it's an absolute hot mess of regulation. And number two, because if you're going for older kids, they don't want to be called a kid.
No.
And K-pop, even K-pop Demon Hunters is thoroughly 4-quadrant, right? Like it is very enjoyable from multiple angles. It's not a kiddie kids movie at all. No. And that's why it's actually, it's resonating as opposed to being sanitized or dumbed down for kids. Ditto Bluey, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
agreed. I do think that we'll see more people trying to skirt that line between overtly kids content and trying to argue that it's broader.
Yeah, good family
Absolutely.
content.
Well, I think you're going to have people that are going to identify with the genres more than that kind of demographic. So there'll be sports creators, or there'll be gamers, or there'll be, I don't know, or it'll be anime. Do you know what I mean? In some ways, they'll end up gravitating to genres that will be appealing to that younger audience, but they'll try and avoid being identified as kids content creators.
Yeah, agree. Interesting times. I do think that we've discussed the inquiry before. I think this is an opportunity for it to be flagged, and I think many will be flagging it in responses to the inquiry, just how we're pretty much crunch point with a lot of kids creators, in the sense that it's no longer a viable business and it's facing collapse. And I don't think that's being overly dramatic.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, there's definitely people are feeling it in a way that I think they weren't sort of 5 years ago.
It's crunch time. And like I do feel that we, with this podcast, try to move conversations forward productively. So
Absolutely.
like, it's not just Maud Flanders think of the children. It's literally Maud Flanders think of the children.
Yes. Yeah, and we don't pretend that we've got the, because I think a lot of these questions are tricky questions, but they need they need discussing.
If anyone has an answer, let us know.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can
Awesome.
email us.
Well, listen, you guys, good to chat. And there's we've got a few more exciting plans coming up for the Kids Media podcast now that the summer break is over. And hopefully we'll see you two in person before too long.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Great. I'll do the sign off.
Go, Andy.
Yeah, don't screw it up like you did the opening, okay?
Well, yeah. That's unlucky.
Take one.
So, deep breath. I hope you enjoyed that show. And we will please I've messed it up already. So, one more time. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you next week. Cheerio.